Tonight, Taiwan's voters elect a pro-sovereignty candidate as president, angering Beijing. Mary Mania, Australia's Princess Mary, just hours away from being crowned Denmark's Queen. Republicans in Iowa get ready to kick off the US election race amid snow and freezing temperatures. The Australian Open begins with an unheralded Aussie qualifier almost providing a day one upset. And the fleeting Sydney beach that's attracting beachgoers but has lifeguards worried. Good evening, Jeremy Fernandez with ABC News Sunday. Voters in Taiwan have defied China, electing a new president who's vowed to always put the island's democracy first. Lai Ching-te has secured his party a historic third consecutive term in government. But despite a comfortable win, it fell short of a majority in Parliament, and that promises to make the next 4 years all the more challenging. East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood reports from Taipei.
Under a sea of confetti, Taiwan celebrates its new president. The Vice President Lai Ching-te voted into the top job as the small island democracy has its say.
I'm so proud of my country.
We choose the right path, the people choose the right path.
Taiwanese people are still willing to stand up and use our votes to support and defend our democracy.
We have shown the world how much we cherish our democracy. This is our unwavering commitment.
For 8 years, Tsai Ing-wen has drawn the ire of Beijing while promoting Taiwanese sovereignty and strengthening ties with the US.
Today, Taiwan has become a better country. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Their main opponent, Ho Yui of the Kuomintang, apologised to supporters for letting them down.
This is the outcome that Beijing was dreading. For the first time since democratisation, the Taiwanese people have given a political party a third consecutive term, and to one that champions the island's own individual identity. This is a strong rebuke to China that the Taiwanese want to determine their own future, even in the face of growing threats and military might.
China decried the result, with the Taiwan Affairs Office claiming it does not represent mainstream views on the island. The ruling party lost its majority in the parliament, making its job of governing more difficult. At home, it'll have to address growing discontent among young people over housing prices and cost of living pressures. Across the strait, it'll be a challenging balance between sovereignty and peace with Beijing.
We are telling the international community that between democracy and authoritarianism, we will stand on the side of democracy.
That's a fight that looks set to only get harder. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Taipei.
In a matter of hours, Denmark will celebrate a historic royal milestone, the proclamation of a new monarch. Prince Frederik and his Australian-born wife Princess Mary will take on the new titles of King and Queen in a no-frills ceremony. Historians say it's this unfussy approach that's won the royals' unwavering support from the Danish public. Europe correspondent Isabella Higgins reports from Copenhagen.
Denmark is known for its design, style and cycling. It's also home to Europe's oldest continuous monarchy.
They're royals, but they're part of the society. They bicycle around, they have their kids in normal school, not like private schools.
The royals are much adored by the public. The Tasmanian-born Princess Mary won the hearts of the nation.
All Danes love Princess Mary. I'm not sure that it's the Australian thing in her, but they love her.
Her long-term dress designer says she's the ultimate international ambassador.
She's done wonderful things for our royal family, and she's really liked in Denmark.
There will be no grand coronation here to proclaim the new king, and many say that's just how they like it.
Yeah, it's kind of Danish, not too many like diamonds and caves and stuff like that.
The royals in Denmark, it's on a different scale than in the UK. not as much money. The glamour is still there, but on another scale.
Sometimes Europe's royal houses have been referred to as bicycle monarchies. They're smaller and cheaper than their British peers, and some say the Danish royals have survived for so long because of their drive to modernise.
In the country's National Museum, exhibits show how the monarchy has transformed from absolute power in the 1600s to today, the head of state in Denmark's modern democracy.
The royal family is just as old as the country. I mean, when Denmark was gathered as one country, which happened in the 7th century, it was under a monarch.
And it's evolved somewhat since then.
It survives also through the revolutionary years and centuries of Europe, probably because it evolved with the society.
A new royal couple set to steer this dynasty into the decades ahead.
Danes are waking up to the big day with excitement building about the dawn of a new chapter for the royal family. Isabella Higgins joins us from Copenhagen. Isabella, what's the mood like in the capital?
Well, Jeremy, it's still early here in Denmark, but there has been a building sense of excitement in recent days. Many Danes say all of this has taken a little bit of getting used to. No one expected the long-reigning Queen Margrethe to abdicate, but certainly Prince Frederik and his Australian-born wife, Crown Princess Mary, go into this with plenty of popularity. This area behind me is expected to fill up with crowds, hoping to catch a glimpse of the newly proclaimed king on the balcony of Christiansborg Palace. Now, we're told all of this, it will be a simple ceremony with just a touch of royal spectacle, and all of the formalities shouldn't take longer than an hour.
Isabella Higgins in Copenhagen. Around the country, people are celebrating the unlikely event of an Australian becoming a queen. Those from her home suburb in Tasmania are proud of their Mary and are keen to claim her as their own.
Raising a glass to Mary's rise to the throne. A picnic in the park and a high tea.
There we go.
Here in Taroona, there's a particular pride that a local girl who went to the local public school grew up to become a European queen.
Taroona local Jenny Holmes is what you might call a super fan.
I mean, I haven't actually met her, and I wish I had, but she only lived three blocks from our house.
Over the past 12 years, she's created a scrapbook of Mary's life.
Then she had the twins. So that's the castle, beautiful castle. It's a palace fit for a king.
In Melbourne, dozens gathered at Denmark House, basking in traditional Danish culture, celebrating the soon-to-be King and Queen at the 135-year-old club.
We all do like Frederik and Mary, so we are very excited. Like, they're going to be amazing.
Well, we have to celebrate that we are getting a new king, and of course say thank you to our queen, who's been doing a fabulous job.
And celebrating the reign of Queen Margrethe.
I was in the Danish Royal Guard, so protecting the Queen when I was a young soldier. So yeah, it means a lot to me to come in here and celebrate it.
Many Danish expats excited to have an Australian connection to their home country. Strong! Eliza Closer, ABC News.
Almost $200 million will be spent on new efforts to stop illegal tobacco and vapes from entering the country. It's part of a broader push to crack down on the illicit industry, particularly where it targets young people. Authorities fear it's being driven by organised crime and bikie gangs and fueling a dangerous turf war.
Fire tearing through a tobacconist in Melbourne's northern suburbs in the early hours of this morning.
Yeah, well, that's all the stuff inside.
Explosions scattered shrapnel for hundreds of metres across Craigieburn.
You have a gas bottle in your backyard?
Yeah, it's split open, so it's a sheet of steel, buried about 6 inches into the dirt.
And left neighbours rattled.
The explosions, they were really bad. The bloody house, they were shaking.
Police are now investigating if this fire is linked to dozens of others in Victoria, part of an ongoing conflict between organised crime and bikie gangs.
a result of criminal syndicates in conflict due to competition for profit derived from the illicit tobacco market.
Organised crime gangs are using illegal cigarettes, tobacco and vapes as an ATM to fund their activities like sex trafficking and drug trafficking.
For months, tobacconists across Melbourne and regional Victoria have been targeted. Last night's fire in Craigieburn follows blazes in Sunshine, Altona, Croydon and Moe, just since Christmas. It's now pushing the federal government to action. It's launching a new $190 million crackdown on illegal tobacco and vapes nationwide.
This will be an end-to-end crackdown to do all that we can to shut down this illegal trafficking at its source before these illegal cigarettes reach Australia's border in the first place.
Trying to push them out of tobacconists, where vapes in particular are often sold to young people, and cut off a revenue stream for organised crime.
The government's taken their foot off the pedal, and you've allowed over the course of the last 18 months for these organised crime groups to really take hold.
A public health problem taking a dangerous turn. Tom Lowry, ABC News.
A dramatic mass rescue has unfolded on Sydney's Maroubra Beach at the same time as an Iron Man and Iron Woman series was underway. More than 20 swimmers became caught in a flash rip south of the competition area this afternoon. Luckily, there were plenty of athletes and coaches around to help with the rescues, with competitors who were recovering from a round of racing rushing in. There were no injuries reported. Surf lifesavers say it shows how quickly surf conditions can change. A woman has had a lucky escape after falling from a waterfall at a popular tourist spot south of Sydney while walking her dogs. Paramedics were called to the mermaid pools at Tamor this morning after reports someone had slipped down a cliff. New South Wales Ambulance says the woman in her 30s was crossing a shallow river when she lost her footing and was dragged over the edge by the water. A complex helicopter rescue was required to winch the woman to safety from about 10 metres below. She was flown to Liverpool Hospital where she's been treated for a shoulder injury. An elderly man accused of sexually assaulting a woman in an aged care home in Sydney has been granted bail. William Newbold has been charged with several offences, including aggravated sexual touching and aggravated sexual assault. Police say the offences were committed against an 87-year-old woman with dementia on 2 separate occasions in the past week. Mr Newbold had been visiting another resident at the aged care facility in Sydney's northwest at the same time. Police say he was aware that the victim was cognitively impaired. Mr Newbold's lawyer told the court there were also concerns about his cognitive health. Protesters have called on the federal government to send its decommissioned Taipan helicopters to Ukraine instead of scrapping them for parts. The European-designed helicopter fleet was permanently grounded earlier than expected after a fatal crash killed 4 defence personnel during a training exercise in the Whitsundays last July. The Ukrainian embassy says it made a request for the aircraft last month, but according to the government, the disassembly process is already underway after no countries showed interest in acquiring the helicopters. Protesters say the MRH-90 choppers are sorely needed in Ukraine.
The Russian Federation has complete air superiority over Ukraine, and if those 45 Taipan helicopters could end up on the Ukrainian front line, it would go a very long way to help Ukrainians fight for freedom and democracy.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country will continue its mission to destroy Hamas as the conflict passes 100 days. Gazan health authorities say more than 100 people were killed in the latest Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, including 10 people who were sheltering in a house in the southern city of Rafah. Tens of thousands of people, meanwhile, gathered in Tel Aviv, calling on the Israeli government to bring back hostages captured by Hamas on October the 7th. In London, pro-Palestinian crowds rallied for a ceasefire, with similar numbers in the US capital, Washington. The US election isn't until November, but the race for the White House officially kicks off this week. Republicans in Iowa will be casting their votes for the party's nominee. Donald Trump is up against high-profile rivals, including his former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, and the Florida Governor, Ron DeSantis. But the former president is still the overwhelming front-runner for the nomination, despite facing 4 sets of charges and a legal push to stop him from running in some states. If he does become the candidate, he'll likely face a rematch with Joe Biden, whose campaign is grappling with concerns about his age and unpopularity. North America correspondent Jade McMillan is in Des Moines, Iowa for tonight's special report.
People living in Iowa know how to make the most of their brutal winters and of the intense political attention they receive every 4 years.
The caucus comes down, it gets crazy here. Lots of people come flying in.
Iowa is the first US state to have its say on who should contest the presidential election. And some Republicans are doing whatever they can to try to stop Donald Trump from becoming their nominee.
We just don't need him bringing all of his court cases and all of his vengeance, and we need to put all that crap behind to get things done.
Donald Trump is facing a total of 91 criminal counts in 4 cases. He's been charged over hush money payments in New York and alleged election interference in Georgia. He's also facing 2 federal trials, one in Florida over his handling of classified documents and another in Washington in connection with the January 6 attack. The former president has used his court appearances as campaign stops, rallying supporters behind his claims that the prosecutions are politically motivated.
When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy.
He's fighting for the nomination against his former United Nations ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But if the polls are correct, the majority of people who brave the freezing temperatures to vote this week will be backing the 45th president.
It's amazing that he was able to accomplish what he did with all the obstacles that was put in front of him. I want him to get back to be president so he can finish what he started.
Iowa is a relatively small rural state, and the winner of the Republican race here isn't guaranteed to become the party's nominee. But for the candidates, this contest is all about trying to build momentum for their campaigns.
So it winnows the field, right? It gets a ton of media attention, and it has the potential to launch a presidential candidate to the White House.
Its current occupant is hoping to stay on for another 4 years. Joe Biden would be 86 by the end of a second term. But some of his youngest backers believe he still offers the Democrats their best chance of again beating his predecessor.
You see on social media people our age making jokes about, the president's age or Trump's age, both of them. I think that it'd be great to have a younger person, but in this moment we need someone that's tested.
The president's approval ratings remain stubbornly low amid concerns about issues like the cost of living and immigration. Yes! And he's faced fierce criticism from some in his party over his backing of Israel in the war in Gaza.
Majority of people in our age group kind of do see that as a problem and see that as like a tell sign for Biden that maybe they don't align with Biden as much. But I would just like younger people to think about the possibility of Trump being in office again.
A prospect that could move a step closer as a wildly unpredictable election year begins. Jade McMillan, ABC News, Des Moines, Iowa.
Bondi might be the most photographed beach in Sydney, but there's a neighbouring spot making even bigger waves on social media right now. The normally rocky ledges of Mackenzie's Bay have undergone a natural transformation this summer. The change is so striking it's drawn attention from TikTokers and a safety warning from lifeguards.
Whether you're peering down from Bondi or looking up from Bronte, it can be easy to overlook the rocky stretch that lies in between. But once in a while, when the tides and weather are just right, Mackenzie's Bay becomes a picturesque beach.
It's infrequent, but it happens.
And when it does, it can be dangerous.
It isn't safe. The access to the area is always rocky and slippy.
The pull of a pop-up beach has gone viral on social media.
Mackenzie's Bay is now temporarily a beach.
I want y'all to see that life is great.
Bringing an influx of inexperienced swimmers. Lifesavers have been forced to redirect their operations to the usually unpatrolled stretch.
It's very small and a lot of water comes in, and that water coming in has to go out, so there's really strong currents.
The beach only appears during fair weather, when waves gently push sand onto the shore. Rough waves then strip it away.
For us beach nerds, Mackenzie is like this mythical beach that is like, oh, it's not on this year, or yes, look, it is on.
It's impossible to predict when these sand dumps will occur. Locals say the largest was in 1997, when you could walk all the way over to Bondi. Then, in a single storm, it was gone.
During El Niño, we have fewer storms, we have less wave energy, and so there is a larger opportunity for the waves to bring the sand gently onto the shore.
So, if the weather changes, this temporary stretch of sand might not last long. While it's here, lifeguards insist the best way to enjoy the view is from afar. Mindy Burrows, ABC News, Sydney.
The Australian Open is underway with several local hopes headlining day one of the Grand Slam. Young Queenslander Dane Sweeney has gone down in a tough five-set battle, and wildcard Adam Walton is out after losing in straight sets. Organisers are predicting record crowds.
Australia's Grand Slam is back, but this time starting a day earlier.
It does take the edge off the late finishes. Doesn't guarantee you won't have them, but it takes the edge off.
One former champion says the now 15-day tournament is a win.
From a playing perspective, I was a victim to it a few times too, where you get on the court so late and you're finishing so late.
Andre Agassi and Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley each won the Australian Open 4 times. 50 years after her first title, Goolagong-Cawley wants to see an Australian hoist the trophy once again.
Tomljenovic, she's doing well. She's come back after injuries, but you know, I think she's got a good chance.
Organisers want 1 million people through the gates and forecast more than 1 billion viewers worldwide.
There's nothing in the world this time of the year.
On the court, Australians were facing some stiff competition straight out of the gates. Wildcard Adam Walton was knocked out in his debut slam.
Seals it with an ace.
After he was outclassed by young Italian Matteo Arnaldi in 3 sets. Fellow debutant and Leighton Hewitt lookalike, Dane Sweeney, made a bright start against his more fancied opponent.
And he's got the opening set.
But just as the crowd got behind the Queenslander, Francisco Cerundolo showed why he's the 22nd seed. Sweeney fought back to take the match to a deciding set.
Put the kettle on, grab yourself a cuppa.
Before the Argentinian poured cold water on the Australian's dream.
And he finishes it off with a ripping forehand winner.
Number 4 seed Jannik Sinner had little to worry about in his opening round match, but Andrei Rublev needed 5 sets to get past Brazil's Tiago Seiboth-Wild.
What a win!
Tom Maddox, ABC News, Melbourne Park.
Steve Smith says Australian selectors thought he was joking when he first suggested he could take over from the retiring David Warner at the top of Australia's test order. The Australian team was at the Adelaide Oval today preparing to face the West Indies in the first of a 2-match test series beginning on Wednesday. Smith will open the batting for the first time alongside Usman Khawaja, while Cameron Green has been added to the side and will bat at number 4. The 34-year-old former captain says he first floated the idea as far back as the Ashes series in the middle of last year, but had to mention it a few more times before being considered for the position.
In Perth, I kind of said, you know, after Davey's done, I'm actually keen to get up there, and I don't think they sort of took me seriously until I got to Sydney, and I was like, no, I'm actually being genuine here. I'd be keen to get up top and face the new ball, and they were like, all right, well, we'll take that under advisement.
The Socceroos have overcome a sluggish start against India to open their Asian Cup campaign with a 2-0 victory in Qatar. The Socceroos sealed victory through Jackson Irvine and substitute Jordan Boss.
Despite a flurry of chances.
Connor Metcalf.
Australia failed to capitalise on 12 corners and more than 70% possession in a frustrating first term.
We can improve on everything, and the boys know that. One disappointment probably was our set pieces, because we work quite a lot on it.
After 50 minutes, Jackson Irvine opened the scoring, pouncing on a mistake from the Indian goalkeeper.
Their first goal at this AFC Asian Cup.
Obviously it would have been nice to score more goals. We created enough opportunities, but pleased with the way we handled it again.
Young Socceroo Jordan Boss came off the bench to double Australia's advantage with his first touch.
It's his first international goal. It couldn't have gone any better.
He brings a lot to the team, so I believe in Australian youth. We've got some good quality players coming through, and it's a great experience for them to be here with some senior players.
The 2-0 victory puts Australia on top of the Group B standings for now, after Syria was held to a 0-0 draw against Uzbekistan. There was another goalless draw in a balanced game between China and Tajikistan in Group A. The Socceroos next take on Syria on Thursday, with the coach issuing a clear message.
We're here to win the trophy. We're here to win the Asian Cup.
A feat Australia has only achieved once in 2015. Chloe Hart, ABC News.
In the A-League women's competition, the Western Sydney Wanderers have upset top-of-the-table Melbourne City with a 1-0 win. Holly Caspars capitalised on a complacent City defence to score her first goal of the season in the 67th minute of play. The win is the Wanderers' fifth and sees them move up to fourth place on the ladder. Meanwhile, Sydney FC claimed a 1-0 win over Western United thanks to the Matildas' World Cup star Courtney Vine. Vine created a number of chances off the bench before finally breaking the deadlock in the second half. The Sydney Kings have smashed the New Zealand Breakers 105 points to 76. Jalen Adams starred for the Kings, scoring 39 points in his 27 minutes on the court. The win cements Sydney into fourth place in the standings. Earlier today, the Brisbane Bullets claimed an important victory for their season, beating Illawarra 110 points to 103. Nathan Sobey was crucial for the Bullets and was named Player of the Game for his 25 points. The game ends the Hawks' 4-game winning streak. Let's take a look at the weather now. Sydney's day has been bookended by very light showers early this morning and again from this afternoon. Daytime temperatures peaked in the high 20s across the metro area after a warm night, partly due to the cloud cover. We've got large areas of clouds spanning much of New South Wales tonight. Again, that's brought some elevated overnight temperatures. That's also meant lower than average daytime temperatures, especially in the southeast, with the cool wind change. Tonight, we've got another severe thunderstorm warning spanning much of the upper west and also the southern riverina. We can expect damaging winds and heavy rain in these regions and the adjacent slopes and plains. Affected locations include Wagga Wagga, Albury, Cobar, Burke, Winaring and Brewarrina. By tomorrow, we see showers becoming more intense on the coast and light showers which may become more widespread in the remainder of the state. These conditions only contract to the coast around Thursday. In the major centres tomorrow, there may be a shower or two in Melbourne and Canberra. It'll be mostly sunny in Brisbane, Hobart, Adelaide and Perth. Darwin can expect a few thunderstorms. In northeastern New South Wales, it's likely to stay cloudy tomorrow, bringing a very high chance of showers with thunderstorms. These will extend onto the tablelands and may be heavy in parts. Likewise, showers are expected on the southeastern coastal fringe, extending onto the adjacent tablelands. Again, there may be some locally severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall. We'll also get some isolated showers and storms through the inland districts, possibly severe, with heavy falls in some areas. Winds will be east to southeasterly and fresh and gusty along the coast and ranges. In Sydney, there's a high chance of showers tonight, and these will stay with us tomorrow. They're most likely during the afternoon and evening, with the occasional thunderstorm or two, possibly severe, accompanied by heavy rain in parts. The sun will rise at 5:58 a.m. It's likely to be a wet week ahead. We're looking at potentially heavy falls on Monday and Tuesday, up to 45 millimetres. Daytime temperatures coming back a little, mostly in the mid to high 20s or low 30s. And just before we go, on ABC Radio Sydney tomorrow, join the new host of Breakfast, Craig Rucastle, followed by Sarah McDonald on mornings. James Valentine returns to afternoons. Richard Glover is back on Drive, and Renee Crosh will present evenings. You can tune in on 702 and via the ABC Listen app. And that is the very latest from the ABC News team. Thanks for your company. Have a good evening.